The Unicornis Manuscripts, a live Periscope reading by Fairy Princess Lolly. Chapter 1, The Discovery. In the fall of 1982, I received a letter, handwritten in an elegant italic script, requesting a meeting with me on a matter of the greatest possible concern and mutual advantage. I was, the letter claimed, perhaps the most qualified person available for an unnamed undertaking. It bore a curious closing. In amore Unicornis, it was signed, Frater Iamblicus. This opportunity sounded too promising to pass up, and so I wrote back, inviting Frater Iamblicus to my studio. Within the week, a thin, cowled figure was sitting before me, carefully holding a well-wrapped bundle. In grave, precise phrases and a hard-to-place accent, my visitor began by complimenting me on the unicorn notebook, which I had recently illustrated. To my puzzlement, he claimed that my drawings were the most faithful depictions and asked if I had ever actually seen the animal. I replied, appropriately, I felt, "Not yet," adding that my illustrations were strictly a work of imagination. This answer seemed to satisfy him, and he studied me solemnly. "Would you like to see the holy beast?" he asked, folding back the paper from his package to reveal a time-worn leather portfolio. As he untied the intricate knots and secured its covers, he recited under his breath a short litany that must have been Latin. Then, almost with a flourish of pride, he laid the covers open before me. Gazing at the voluminous contents, I felt a sense of awe and amazement. Page after yellow page was filled with notes and jottings, accompanied by delicately tinted drawings of unicorns and a few brilliant miniatures. They were executed in a curious mixture of medieval and Renaissance styles, and from their worn, discolored margins, it was clear that they were very old indeed. "This," said Frater Iamblicus, "is the Codex Unicornis, the history and the truth of the unicorn. It is the testament of the venerable Master Magna Lucius, and the treasure of our collegium, which he founded. Originally, in the 15th century, our order was gathered on an estate near Ravenna. Now we are dispersed across many countries, but we are united by Magna Lucius's teachings, the heart of which is the secret doctrine of the unicorn." No doubt the man was serious. Carefully, I examined the notes and sketches. They certainly appeared authentic, but still I felt bewildered. Were the unicorns depicted on these pages supposed to be literal or allegorical? But my visitor's conspiratorial manner clearly assumed I was beyond that sort of question. "For centuries," he went on, "our fraternity and its lore have been concealed. But now we must break our silence and spread these teachings without restraint." "And why now?" I asked. In reply, Frater Iamblicus drew from the portfolio the yellowed sheet pictured here and translated it for me. "The unicorn is a kindred race bound to us in love and service. He points the way, he guards the gate, he waits until the end. Behold, an age shall come when science shall darken everywhere the hopes of men. Iron wagons shall roll the land, which shall be made hard and barren to bear their weight. The ethers shall be filled with a clamor of voices. Unknown plagues and sicknesses shall rise, and the virgin moon shall bear the booted heels of man. Two mighty empires will contend for the world and turn against it until the soils and seas sicken as the winds are filled with poisonous vapors. All men shall be soully tired, so that none may escape the choice between light and dark. Then, in this time of great purification, the unicorn will return in strength, lingering again at the margins of our realm, to seed our minds with dreams of brighter things to come, and many shall hunger to see him in his true shape. But being a spiritual creature, the unicorn must conform himself to the image held in the hearts of those who call him forth. There shall be such a confusion of ill-formed ideas as to his nature that he will hardly find a way to satisfy them all. Then must these pages be revealed and broadcast without restraint, that all confusion be resolved, and a unity of vision call forth the unicorn in his original and perfect state. This does seem to be the right time, I agreed, but how can I help you? One way is to broadcast this manuscript would be to produce it in a book, Frater Iamblichus replied. Perhaps not all of it, I considered, and the text would have to be translated. So it was foretold, he cried. Select 3 sheets to show to your publisher, and to no one else. I will visit you again in 1 week's time. When again Frater Iamblichus called, I had good news. My editor had quickly recognized the manuscript's worth, and was keen to publish a facsimile edition, and so I set to work. Page by page, the manuscript was rendered into English with the help of a brilliant young Latin scholar. As the book neared completion, I received yet another visit from Iamblichus. My friend, he said gravely, a decision that our brotherhood has long avoided now draws near. Will you visit our hermitage that we may obtain your counsel? That weekend, I arrived at the mountaintop retreat of the Collegium Gnosticum, a community of perhaps a dozen anchorites, earnest and friendly, but somewhat melancholy as a group. After a simple lunch, Frater Iamblichus led me to a tiny chapel in the forest nearby. We entered, bowing through the low door, and sat in silence for a time. At length he spoke with obvious reluctance. This day you shall see the horn. Opening a narrow wooden casket that sat on the low stone altar, he chanted, Nunc ex tenebris te educo. Now I bring thee out of darkness, and lifted out a spiral horn. I must admit that a physical thrill passed through me at the sight of the strange object's wild beauty. It was mounted in a heavy, ornamental silver base, with amethyst engraven in a manner I guess was Celtic in origin. Certainly a most magical and mysterious device. It seemed charged with arcane secrets. I could not take my eyes off it. Touch, said Frater Iamblichus, and know the unicorn is neither symbol nor allegory. The horn was smooth and hard as ivory, and very cold. The horn is even older than its setting, he continued, and that is old enough. It has endured fire and flood, and felt the grasp of saints and kings. It is a talisman of sovereign power that can draw the living unicorn within its compass. But there is its doom. Only by its rightful owner can its virtue be quickened. In any other's keeping, its light will dim and fade. So, he sighed, addressing the treasure in his hands, we have given away your secrets, and now we must release thee to an unknown fate. For you see, he fixed his eyes directly on my own. Its power asleep, even in the hour of our greatest need. You mean your brotherhood is not the rightful owner? I asked. We are not. For generations, the horn has passed only from master to disciple. In our pride, we came to think that we had risen above the rule. What rule is that? That no man knows to whom the horn should go. That ever and again it must be hidden so that, in obscurity, it may draw forth its rightful keeper, and so be ransomed. Thus it is said, in silver bound beneath the ground awaits the spiral horn. The faith that it shall always be found again, a faith we have not had, renews the precious link between the unicorn and mankind. I was amazed at his frank confession. So now you must hide this horn? He nodded. And perhaps in this you again may have a part to play. Please listen to the final preface of Magna Lucius. From the box he lifted a scroll. Again, he said, unrolling it, I shall translate. The text was a poem of sorts that began, Into darkness will I fade, into a night that man has made, but through that gloom shall gleam the sun when I am lost and again am won. Then its meaning became obscure. The only line I understood had to do with new lands across the sea. "Well?" asked Father Imblicus, asking me to pronounce the inevitable. "I would suppose the scroll is describing a place where the horn should be buried." "Yes, yes, but where?" For 3 days we pored over the words of the scroll and combed the pages of the codex for further clues. Finally, as I was strolling in a meadow to clear my thoughts, the perfect place came to mind. Like most riddles, it now seems simple in hindsight. Imblicus agreed that my solution fulfilled the poem's intent, and with sudden urgency insisted that we set out for the chosen place immediately. We traveled alone and laid the horn into the earth with a copper box, marking the spot so that one versed in the lore of unicorns would recognize it. "It is done," said Father Iamblichus, "and a new tide is rising that will sweep us all aside." But as we walked away, he frowned. "Suppose the horn is never discovered?" I had wondered the same thing myself. "I think we should include the scroll at the end of the book." To this, Frater Iamblichus agreed. Now, all this has been accomplished. The first book is published and in your hands, so that anyone can study these strange and wonderful pages. I know many readers will have doubts. Is the manuscript really authentic? Does the unicorn truly exist? There are no further proofs, and that, I believe, is as it should be. The unicorn is not a specimen to be caged and classified. It lives in the realms of mystery and faith. Indeed, when these pages have crumbled into dust, it is the wonder that will endure, not the words.